In the hot, dry Sahel, where red dust can swallow an entire convoy of machines in just a few minutes, Burkina Faso is doing something bold, building a 332-kilometer expressway corridor across the country by itself. This is a major infrastructure ambition with a budget of nearly $400 million under Faso Mebo. But how can a landlocked country, still facing infrastructure limitations, turn more than 300 kilometers of dusty terrain into the new transportation backbone of the entire nation? Join Mandarin Tech as we explore the story. A major transport route does not only carry people and goods, it also determines traffic flow, business costs, and the development opportunities of the entire economy. That is why the Ouagadougou and Bobo-Dioulasso Highway has been placed at the center of this challenge. According to the design, the highway will have 2 separate carriageways with a total of 8 lanes. This layout allows vehicles to move more smoothly, reduces conflicts between opposite directions of traffic, and creates the foundation for a higher capacity transport corridor in the future. Before the sound of machinery fills the red land, the construction site begins with a much quieter task: setting markers. Survey teams move ahead of the equipment convoy, following the planned route and placing each marker on the ground to turn the design drawings into real boundaries in the field. After that, bulldozers and clearing teams begin to move in. Shrubs are pushed away from the path, small tree trunks are cut down, and obstacles along the route are gradually removed from the construction zone. From this point, the project leaves its first visible marks on the ground. There is no roadbed yet, no asphalt surface, only survey markers, newly cleared stretches of land, and a corridor slowly taking shape under the weight of heavy machinery. Even after the route has been opened and the corridor cleared, what the engineers face at this stage is still an uneven surface. Some areas are raised, some areas are sunken, some sections are even slightly tilted. The work begins by checking the elevation of each section again. Technical teams identify the points that need to be cut, the areas that need to be filled, and the slope direction the ground must achieve. From there, motor graders are brought in to play the main role. Their long blades are lowered to shave off raised soil, pull material toward lower areas, and spread the surface evenly with each pass. In sections where the ground is harder or where larger volumes of material need to be moved, bulldozers help push soil away from high points before the graders finish leveling the surface. At the same time, water trucks operate behind them to control dust and adjust the moisture content of the soil. If the surface is too dry, the soil becomes loose, making it difficult to shape and stabilize. If it is too wet, the soil can turn muddy, causing equipment to leave deep ruts. Therefore, water must be added in just the right amount, so the ground is easier to grade, easier to compact, and less likely to break apart under the weight of the machines. The most important goal of this stage is not simply to make the route look flat, but to create the correct technical shape for the construction site. The ground must have an initial elevation, a cross slope, and a temporary drainage direction so rainwater does not collect on the roadbed area being prepared. Low sections are raised, high ridges are cut down, and movement paths for dump trucks, rollers, and heavy equipment gradually take shape. Once the weak ground has been treated, better material is brought in from borrow pits. Dump trucks move in one after another, carrying soil to the construction site and unloading it section by section, layer by layer. Each layer of soil must be spread thinly, leveled evenly, and adjusted to the right moisture content before it can be compacted by heavy rollers. After each compacted layer, the technical team carries out another round of checks. The roadbed must reach the correct elevation, achieve the required compaction, and leave no hidden weak zones underneath. In this way, the roadbed is gradually built from the bottom up, through thousands of rounds of soil dumping, spreading, watering, and compaction. Once the roadbed meets the required technical conditions, the construction site can move on to the pavement layers. Asphalt cannot be laid directly on natural soil. Beneath it, there must be base layers that are firm enough, flat enough, and stable enough to spread the load from heavy vehicles down into the structure below. Graded aggregate or crushed stone is brought to the site, spread in layers, and leveled to the design thickness. Then rollers pass over the surface several times to compact the base layer, creating a solid surface before it receives the hot asphalt. This is a decisive step because if the base layer is uneven or not compacted enough, the pavement above can quickly develop cracks, ruts, or deformation. Once the base layer meets the required standards, the asphalt mixture is delivered by trucks, poured into the asphalt paver, and laid as a continuous layer along the route. Immediately afterward, rollers continue compacting the material while it is still hot, helping the road's surface become denser, bond better, and reach the required stability. Therefore, asphalt paving is not simply about covering the surface with a layer of bitumen. It is the finishing step that directly determines the driving quality, smoothness, and load-bearing capacity of the highway in the future. What makes this project notable is not only the scale of the highway, but also the way Burkina Faso is organizing the construction site under the Faso-Mebo initiative. An approach that emphasizes building infrastructure with domestic resources, from financing and equipment to manpower. But domestic capacity only matters when it is turned into organization. On a construction site stretching for hundreds of kilometers, machines must arrive at the right locations, workers must be assigned clear tasks, and each section of the route must have its own construction rhythm so the work does not become congested at one end. For that reason, the route is divided into multiple construction fronts working in parallel. While one section is being prepared, another section can move on to the next stage. This method prevents the site from operating like one long queue, and instead turns it into several active zones pushing the project forward at the same time. To maintain that rhythm, equipment must be kept running continuously. Bulldozers, graders, transport trucks, and support vehicles all need fuel, technical checks, and timely repairs. Just one machine stopping at the wrong moment can slow down the entire chain of work behind it. That is why inspection teams must stay close to the construction site, monitoring each section and detecting early bottlenecks related to equipment, labor, or progress. A 332-kilometer construction site cannot run on inspiration alone. It needs organizational discipline. And at this early stage, what Burkina Faso is trying to prove is not that it already has a completed highway, but that it can manage an expressway construction site with its own resources. A highway does not only pass through land, it passes through villages, familiar paths, farmland, and the daily life of local communities. That is why, before machines can move deeper along the route, the construction site needs more than technical drawings. It needs agreement on the ground. In areas along the route, local people can support the project in practical ways, working with authorities, clearing trees, pointing out obstacles, and helping the corridor opening process move forward with fewer conflicts. For a project stretching across many localities, delays do not always come from one major problem. Sometimes they come from many small issues repeated again and again. A section of land that has not been agreed on, a local access path being affected, or a farming area that has not been clearly explained. This participation does not turn local residents into the main force building the highway, but it helps make the project feel less distant from the places it passes through. When communities understand what the project will change and see that they have a role in the preparation process, the highway is no longer just a top-down order. It begins to become part of local life. Machines can open the road, but community agreement is what allows that road to pass through people's lives without leaving too many scars. A road does not change an economy simply because it exists. What matters is what can move through it. Trucks, agricultural products, construction materials, consumer goods, and the operating rhythm of businesses. For the Ouagadougou route, its greatest value is not only in the road surface, but in the flow of movement it can unlock. On an important transport corridor, Every hour of delay has a cost. When trucks spend more time on the road, they consume more fuel, labor costs rise, vehicles wear down faster, and the circulation of goods slows. A late shipment can affect warehouses, distributors, construction sites, and even production areas waiting for access to markets. That is why the goal of the expressway is not only to help vehicles move faster, but to create stability. When travel times become more predictable, businesses can plan better, agricultural goods can move more quickly, materials can arrive on schedule, and consumer products can be distributed more evenly between regions. For a country with no direct access to the sea, roads become even more like the breathing system of the economy. Imports need to move deep inland, exports need to reach wider markets, and all of this depends on reliable transport routes. That is why Ouagadougou is not just a domestic road. If it operates effectively, it can become an important part of the national supply chain, allowing the flow of goods, people, and opportunities to move faster, more steadily, and with fewer barriers. Infrastructure has one advantage that speeches do not. It appears on the ground. A plan can be doubted, a commitment can be left waiting, but when a construction site begins to move, trust is tested by something people can see every day. For the Ouagadougou route, that message is even clearer because the project is built around the spirit of self-reliance. When a country uses its own resources to push forward a major project, the story is not only about building another transport route. It becomes a test of its ability to mobilize capital, equipment, manpower, and management capacity for a complex project. In many places, the distance between drawings and reality is often very long. So when a project begins to leave clear physical traces on the ground, the question in society also changes, from will it actually be built to how far can it go? Of course, a project in its early stage cannot yet serve as final proof of success. Quality, progress, funding, and operational efficiency are still tests that lie ahead. But even now, the highway already carries a meaning larger than itself. A test of whether Burkina Faso can turn infrastructure ambition into a visible project through its own resources and discipline. If the Ouagadougou route continues to progress and is completed with the right level of quality, its impact may go beyond the scope of a transport project. It could become a new standard for how Burkina Faso views major infrastructure, not only as long-term plans on paper, but as goals that can be implemented, measured, and monitored on the ground. Sometimes the biggest change does not begin with economics or geopolitics, but with psychology. When a country sees a major corridor being opened, a construction site operating continuously, and each stage of work appearing one after another, the question within society also changes. People no longer only ask, can it be done? They begin to ask, after this route, what else can be done next? That is the important point. Infrastructure builds on itself. A better road can help trucks move more steadily. When transport flows become more stable, warehouses have more reason to appear. When warehouses appear, production areas gain more connection points. When production areas are better connected, businesses have stronger grounds to consider investment. Not everything will change immediately, but every better layer of infrastructure creates the foundation for the next layer of development. For Burkina Faso, the Ouagadougou route may also become a test for a broader ambition, building a high-capacity road network between regional centers. If the first project can maintain its pace, control quality, and move into real operation, it will create an important precedent for the projects that follow. On the other hand, if the initial momentum is not maintained, today's high expectations may become even heavier pressure tomorrow. That is why the story of the Ouagadougou Bobo-Dioulasso route is not only about 332 kilometers of road, it is about a bigger question. After opening a national corridor so quickly, can Burkina Faso turn this early momentum into a complete infrastructure system? Looking back at the entire project, the Ouagadougou Bobo-Dioulasso Highway is not yet a completed structure, but it is no longer just an idea sitting still on design drawings either. However, the hardest part is not over yet. An expressway is not proven by how quickly the route is opened at the beginning, but by its ability to remain stable after rainy seasons, after convoys of heavy trucks, and after many years of operation. The roadbed must stay firm, materials must arrive on time, machines must be maintained, bridges, culverts, drainage systems, and the road surface must meet the required quality. And above all, resources must keep pace with ambition. If Burkina Faso can maintain this momentum until the entire route enters operation, this will not only be a road connecting two major centers of the country, it could become a milestone in how a nation organizes itself, mobilizes its own resources, and proves its capacity to build large-scale infrastructure. What about you? What do you think of the way Burkina Faso is opening an expressway corridor through the Sahel by itself? Leave your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe to Mandarin Tech to continue exploring the projects that are changing the world.